Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our very first episode of looking at Warcry 2.0. That's probably a working title and not what I'll put the video as, but anyways. Um, Today we're starting with Ironjawz. That was the first suggestion I got on yesterday's video, so thank you very much for all your comments on that one. A lot of people have already given me their input and what they would like to see first, and I'm going to go by the list I've created from those comments. So Ironjawz first. What we're going to do in this video is first off talk about the new units marked in red here and their stats. Then we're going to take a look at how they perform points wise, and of course at the new abilities each of them gets and how they affect the choice in which leader and so on I would like to take. And last but not least, we're going to have a little sneak peek at what I think would be a solid list for the entire warband. So let's get started then. We've got a couple of new leader options. We've got the Mega Boss, the War Chanter, the Weird Not Charmin, and then two options for the Gore Grunter as a leader. The Auric Mega Boss comes in at 285 points, very expensive, so tough to justify that point cost was my first thought. He has movement 3, of course, all the Ironjawz have movement 3. Toughness 5, which is very tough. 38 wounds, so insanely hard to bring down that one. And then we look at his attacks characteristics. He does have a range of 3 attacks, which isn't that much, but at a strength of 6, so even hitting Stormcast Eternals on 3s, pretty amazing. And then a damage characteristic of 4-8. This guy eats the Ogre Breacher for breakfast. Absolutely insane. So 10 damage on average per action is insane, and this is going to be, no matter the toughness of your opponent, there's always going to be 10 damage per activation. So if you get 2 attacks and you can deal 20 damage, easily able to take out the vast majority of opponents in any given game. Then we've got the Auric War Chanter. He comes in at 230 points, so considerably cheaper. Just realized that we do not want to see this here. Anyways, so considerably cheaper. Movement 3, 5, toughness 5, 35 wounds, so 3 wounds less, not a lot, won't make a big difference. 1 inch range, 4 attacks, strength 4, not strength 6, so he's in the normal kind of strength, and 2-4 damage. So this is a very average attack profile, an average good attack profile, but still average. 5.4 damage per action. So if he's going to be worth his costs, his abilities must be pretty good. Then we've got the Weird Not Charmin, 5 points more than the War Chanter. Only toughness 4 on this one, also movement 3 and 35 wounds. He has the standard mage attack with 7 inch range, 2 attacks, strength 3, 3-6 damage. I've talked about this in the past. I think it's a very, very bad attack profile. It yields a low 3.1 damage on average, which for a 235 point model is horrifyingly bad. So I'm not a fan of the Weird Not Shaman. We'll see what his abilities are. Maybe they justify bringing him. Now we've got the new Gore Grunter boss with Hacker and the boss with Chopper. They've got both the same movement of 8, which obviously is very nice for Ironjawz, toughness of 4 and 40 wounds each. So that is pretty insane. You're probably not going to see any of these dying in any given game. Or if you do, then your opponent has allocated a ton of resources to killing them and you're probably winning the game because all other aspects of your game are going well. The boss Hacker has a 2 inch range where the Chopper only has a 1 inch range. The Hacker has 3 attacks compared to the Chopper's 4 attacks. And all the other profiles are the same, strength 5, 2 damage, 5 crit. So overall, obviously with more attacks, the chopper is going to be more effective in dealing damage. So what you're getting out of the hacker is the 2-inch range. Now normally I tell you that 2-inch range is good because it allows you to keep outside of the opponent's attack and they have to move in to get an attack back at you. However, with a 40 wound model, there is no reason to be afraid to get into a fight. In fact, you really want to, because you want to tie down your opponent. The Gore Grunters are models that have a ton of wounds, so they can really tie down your opponents, make them waste activations on disengaging or attacking you. That's also wasting activations, basically. So I don't think the boss hacker is going to be that good. I think the boss chopper is going to be the better choice here. Then we've got the Gore Grunter with hacker and the Gore Grunter with chopper. They are basically the non-leader versions of the two guys we discussed already. 5 wounds less than the leader counterparts and 1 attack less each. So the hacker comes in at 2 attacks and the chopper at 3 attacks. It has to be mentioned though that the chopper is only strength 4. Still, I think the chopper is the superior choice because again, you don't need the 2-inch range on these guys, and having more attacks is certainly going to be beneficial. So yeah, that's these guys discussed. Yeah, let's have a look at how their stats perform. So what you can see here is we've got all the old fighters, and then we've got the new ones marked in red down here. So the Orc Mega Boss, as I said, 0.04 damage per point value, really good, especially for a leader. Most leaders don't perform that amazingly in terms of damage per point value. So even though this guy is insanely expensive at 285 points, he's actually very much worth it if you want to deal a lot of damage. In terms of activations to be killed, that also takes a lot. It's very hard to bring this guy down, and therefore even there his point value is above average. For the War Chanter, obviously his damage is lower, so you can see here he's actually in the slightly below average point value there, because obviously he's still quite expensive and his attack profile isn't that amazing. What is amazing though is his survivability per point value, because all he loses over the Mega Boss is 3 wounds, and yeah, his point cost is significantly lower, so therefore his value in terms of survivability is amazing. We've got the Weird Knob Shaman, and he's unsurprisingly the worst you could get in terms of damage per point value, as all mages tend to be still quite survivable. Then we've got the Gore Grunter variants, and you can see again that the boss chopper is just doing better here on damage per point value. Yeah, I think he's going to be the superior choice. And then we've got the Gore Grunters themselves. Obviously you're paying a lot of points for the very high survivability and the better movement compared to your other fighters. So these are not going to be great in terms of damage per point value, and you should not be relying on Gore Grunters for damage output. So what has changed? Well, we've got, in terms of abilities now, we've got one new ability which is for the Gore Grunters, which is a triple. It's just a standard charge, so deal damage equal to the value of the ability after you've completed a move action within 1 inch of an enemy fighter. It's the same for tons and tons of fighters. You've all seen it. It's okay, it's not great, it's not bad. However, we obviously did get a lot of new leader abilities. Right off the bat, we've got probably the best leader ability in the entire game. The double for the War Chanter, adding 1 attack for all friendly models within 6 inches of him. That is an ability that is really strong on a triple. It's insanely good on a double. I have no idea why it is a double. It should be a triple, but it is a double. So the War Chanter, yeah, that's just massive. It's insanely good. The Shaman is more expensive than the War Chanter, and all he gets is a triple ability that targets one enemy in 12 inches and throws a number of dice equal to the value of the ability. So let's assume you roll triple six, which would be great. Then you'd roll 6 dice. For each 2+, you deal 1 damage, and for each 6, you deal 3. On average, when throwing 6 dice, that would mean 1/6, so you deal 3 damage there, and then 4 2+. So all you do in total would be 7 damage for a triple. Honestly, this is not worth it. That's not a good ability. Then we've got the triple for all leaders, which obviously was the old Ironjawz leader ability, which is the war, so adding the value of the ability to the move characteristic for all friendly fighters within 6 inches. So this is one of the best, I think, right after the double the War Chanter gets. That's one of the best abilities in the game. Just allows your normally movement 3 models, which is very slow, to suddenly speed up considerably. Even with a triple 3, you're suddenly movement 6, which is really high, and you can get across the board insanely fast. So then we've got the triple boss claw, which was also already a thing in the past. So your leader with the boss claw, the brute leader, he gets a bonus attack action against one opponent, and then he has to roll a 3+ to net them down, so stop them from moving or disengaging. So it's very useful. Nets, as you know, stopping enemies from moving at all is quite powerful. However, this only works in melee combat, so you can't stop a powerful enemy model from acting, because they will still be able to attack you, but it's still a very good ability. And then we've got the quad for the mega boss, which is basically your normal war, which normally is 6 inches in range, and this is 9 inches in range, so you've got a slightly bigger bubble in which your fighters get bonus move. What I don't like about this is you're never going to have a quad and a triple in one single battle round. That's just not going to happen normally. So you're always going to have to decide which one of these you do, probably depending on whether you've got a quad or a triple, if you bring the mega boss. So it doesn't add a lot of value. However, what you can absolutely have is a triple and a double. So that means what I think is going to be a really good combo is activating your War Chanter first, using a triple on the war, so making all the fighters around him in your probably shield faster, then waiting with him. Now all your fighters are faster, you can start moving in with your fighters. But I wouldn't. Instead, I would on your next activation, I would activate him again, move up the value that he can move now, which should be around 6 to 7 inches, move up 7 inches, and then activate his double. His double is an aura ability which buffs people who are actively standing around him. So when you now start moving your fighters forward, they all end up in his bubble. So once your opponent moves towards you, or once you get into combat, you can probably get into combat with one move action with your fighters and then swing once with the buffed attack characteristics of your War Chanter as well. So that is an insane combo. The War Chanter, in my opinion, probably the best leader in the game right now. Really good. Um, so yeah, when we go to list building now, let's have a look at that. Um, it's not going to surprise you when I tell you that I'm going to use the War Chanter. He's going to be my leader number one. And don't forget, you can combo his adding attacks with using onslaught as well, of course. So he could be adding attacks for all your fighters. Say it's battle round 2, you're already fighting. Um, use that double on your War Chanter, and then later on when you activate one of your fighters, you can still use onslaught on top of that and just have a ton of attacks. In addition to that, I would get one Brute with Gore Chopper just because the Death of the Big Things ability is still very good. It can allow you to bring down a powerful opponent in a few blows, so very powerful. And then I'd get a lot of Art Boys with choppers. In the past I said the choppers and the double weapons are basically equally good, and that is true. However, the choppers benefit a bit more from getting the extra attack from your leader. So when I activate my leader aura, it's going to be more beneficial to the choppers than to the double weapons, because the double weapons already have more attacks. The choppers have stronger attacks, so giving more attacks to the choppers is better than giving them to the double weapons. That's why I'd go with the choppers, and you'd end up with 7 models. And now, when I would split these up, I would put one art boy in my hammer. So basically, say you don't care for the hammer and go as cheap as you can there. Put 2 art boys in the dagger, because the dagger tends to come on earlier than the hammer, and you want to have 2 approaches from where to be at least semi-powerful. And then put your leader, your brood, and the remaining 2 art boys all in the shield. So you'd have a very powerful shield that you can, with war, get across the board in turn 1 quite quickly, and then really start smashing heads. I think that's the optimal list for right now. One option you do have is replacing your brood with a Gore Grunter. If you do want that extra movement, there's absolutely the possibility of going this route and saying you're going to get a Gore Grunter with Chopper, make him your hammer on his own, because at least when he's on his own, he's still going to be very useful. He's going to be able to move. And then again, stuff as many art boys as you can in with your War Chanter. They are going to do a lot of damage when he buffs them, and they are going to be very quick. So yeah, art boys and War Chanter, great combination. And then whatever you feel like, getting the Gore Grunter absolutely has its benefits. I totally see getting him, though you're losing a lot of damage output over the Brood, of course. But that's personal taste. I think you'd have to experiment and see which one you like best. I promised you another video that I would talk about developing this, so that is obviously a 1000-point list. What would happen if you had more points to spend? Say you're in a campaign and get to 1100 or something. For Ironjawz, all I would do is keep adding more art boys. Now, one thing you could do is upgrade art boys to brutes if you want to. So say you get 2 territories, you get 100 points extra. Well, you could drop 1 art boy and go upgrade him to a brute. I don't quite recommend that though. I think it's certainly going to be most beneficial to keep getting more art boys. And if you're starting with 980, 985, once you have that 100 additional points, you are going to be able to afford the 110 for the artboard chopper. So I think that's probably the best you can do there. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, and please do tune in again tomorrow when we talk about the next warband. Goodbye.